Hey there, welcome to SharkCast Pod. Catching up with Kieran over coffee about Cronulla, a podcast all about the mighty Cronulla Sharks, the greatest club in the history of the world. Coming off another win. All we do is win lately. 2 in a row, defeating the Roosters 31-18. On the other end of this line is the very handsome and talented and beautiful all-round, inside and out, Mr. Kieran Fraser, the traveling man. Welcome back to Australia, my friend. How you feeling?
I'm good. I've had this lingering cold or flu that I've picked up that's been going around the Shire. It feels like everybody's got it. So I think I'm about 4 weeks in and I still can't shake this cough. So if anyone has any remedies, please send it my way.
Well, this is why we're doing this via distance and not at Mr. Paisley's right now, because I don't want to get what you got. So, Sharks currently in 8th place. We're going to get to all that a bit later on because it's very congested, much like you, my friend. But Sharks win 31-18. I thought a pretty good performance. Second half got the hippy shakes a little bit through some of our own errors, bringing the ball out from our own line. A couple of culprits there. But Kieran, I thought overall a really good performance again, defensively particularly.
Yeah, and you saw it even with the Dolphins' performance this week. Like the Dolphins came out and put a good score on, right? So again, they're fixing up a couple of issues that they've had, but there's a couple of moments in the last few weeks that have kind of made me happy as a Sharks fan. I've been pretty unhappy for a very long time with this team recently, but I think with Toby Rudolph when he knocks that stops that try, I think last week that was quite good. But then on the weekend, I thought there was a really great moment with Sione Katoa, and he did a bit of a drop ball coming out of trouble, and you could see how much it hurt him that he did that. And then he fired up in defense and put a great shot on. And then next time I think he got the ball, he did a really good run, got a penalty. We, go downfield, and I think we even scored off the back of that too. So there's a couple of good signs there that the boys are up for the fight, because those things were missing a few weeks ago, but they're starting to come back now. So it's good to see.
Yeah, and the 2 of the 3 tries that come to mind against the Roosters, there was the one from the kick where we didn't defend the kick well. It bounced all over the place. It went through 20 different hands, and they scored one of those fluky Roosters tries that we can concede. And the other one was right in front of me, in front of the Andrew Eddinghausen stand, where they went down our left, and we found out a little bit there. But 3 of our guys kind of ran at each other. It was very clunky. It wasn't so much. I felt like it wasn't so much bad defense as just they got it wrong. They were doing the right thing, but they got it wrong. And it was a pretty good try from the Roosters. Going through our line was a lot tougher for them. And that, like the Dolphins game, that really impressed me.
Yeah, and I think if we can just minimize a couple of these errors that we're seeing, and there's been a couple of repeat offenders on some of these errors, so I don't want to pile onto them. But if we can stop some of those errors, it will really change a lot of the things for the Sharks, because I will call it out, but Hamlin does that drop ball, and then all the momentum went to the Roosters for the next 20 minutes or so. And that's where they kind of stacked on their points and looked really good. But outside of that, the Sharks looked in control, and they didn't look worried. They looked like they'd held on to that past performance versus the Roosters a few weeks back, and tried to get square, because there was an aggression in defense that I hadn't seen recently, and they just looked up for it. And some of the criticisms that I've had recently about this team is that they just look so flat and energyless, right? So, we'll touch on it later, but the bye coming up, we've got a couple of, decent rounds. If they can sustain this energy, we could be in a bit of good form coming into the finals, because it's all there in front of them. Now all they need to do is go out there and play with that hunger, and they should be okay.
Yeah, they're finding form at the right time, which is impressive. The run home we'll get to as well, which is also fairly impressive without getting ahead of ourselves. We finished the game at 84% completion, Kieran. 5 line breaks to 1, 7 offloads to 3. We outran them by 500 meters, about 150 more post-contact meters. We missed 27 tackles compared to their 42. I think anything under 30 missed tackles in this day and age is pretty good. 27 I can definitely live with. Penalties were even. We made 9 errors to their 15. And we had 6 set restarts to 2, and we'll get to that as to why that happened shortly with our breakout man of the match. But I thought the Roosters were made to play a certain way which benefited us, but I also think they chose that way to play thinking they'd be able to defeat us. And that was side to side ad lib kind of nonsense. They did not earn the right to sort of win this game. Side to side, a lot of flat balls, some of them called forward, some of them should have been called forward. We saw some fluky tries. They never really won the forward battle. And all of that really impressed me about how Cronulla handled that. That defensively, they slid pretty well. There was that one try I was talking about where they didn't quite get it right, but they were in the motion of doing it right. And let's not forget that Britton Nicker was off the field. We had a kid on debut, so that side of the field was always going to be a little bit weaker, and we can talk about that as well. But generally, as a team, I thought they performed really good.
Yeah, and I think the Nakora, HIA and having Vela in the centres and then bringing on Burns, one, it was a great thing that we didn't have Daniel Atkinson on the bench and we actually had a out-and-out second row ready to go, which, again, makes me think tomorrow we'll probably see Atkinson on the bench because Nakora's got the mandatory stand-down, but I digress. But I was a little bit worried with Vela defending there because he's not the biggest body in the world, and having Burns next to him, I don't know if they defend together in New South Wales Cup. I'll be honest, I don't watch every week of New South Wales Cup, so I don't know how much they've actually played together. But when you had Nico there as well, it looked like it could get pulled apart a few times. And there was one time where they did it really well. I think it was Sam Walker, who's one of the best attacking players in the competition, who's going at, a kid on debut who's like 19, 20 or however Vela is. I think he might be 22 actually. But I think that was really good to see, and seeing him keep his confidence. And then when we got in attacking position, Nico giving him the early ball, and just he was up against Butcher, who's a second row playing in the centers himself, and he just absolutely pantsed him, and that was great to see. So I think again the confidence that they'll draw out of that. I don't know how long Jesse's going to be out for. But it's going to be great. But again, Billy Burns doing a great job off the bench for us too. Like, he's become a really dependable guy. And, it kind of reminds me of Matt Pryor's signing. Remember the noise when we signed Matt Pryor and everyone was saying, why have you signed this guy? He's playing New South Wales Cup for the Dragons. He's terrible, blah, blah, blah. But he became a really important squad member for us. And, we don't win 2016 without him. And I'm not saying Billy Burns is going to be that guy for us. But having an out-and-out second rower who you can call on, and again, we're going to have to call on him this week because Britain's not going to be able to play. It's just so handy. And again, he doesn't break the bank, but, a really good signing by the Sharks, and hopefully he sticks around for a little bit longer.
I think he will be. I think you'll see an announcement in the coming month that he will stick around for at least a year. That's the word I'm getting. It's not from the club directly, so don't quote me on that, but I think he will stick around, which is great news. He was phenomenal. That try changed the game. His reaction after the try had the crowd going nuts and had his players and teammates going nuts, and it's exactly what you want to see. And he's become a real cult figure, but more importantly, just doing his job. He does his job so well. He's not flash. That's as flash as he gets probably on the weekend, that try. Just a barge up kind of, not lucky, but just hard-working kind of try that they probably should have stopped. They didn't. And I like that about him. As you said, very no nonsense, smaller perhaps version of the style of Matt Pryor. I know what you're saying. Just run straight, run hard, occasional pass or whatever. So he did great. Let's talk about the debutant, Chris Vela. He is 22 years old, confirmed. I thought it was a pretty good game. And I don't have anything really negative to say about him because in his debut match, and it had been building up for so long, and he hadn't been playing week in, week out before that, I thought he did really well. The thing I loved about it was in the first half, there were some shaky moments in defense, and no one's really talking about it because they don't want to, dwell on this sort of negativity. But there was some defensive issues. He was a bit slow to turn. He crept in a bit too much where he should have stuck, etc. But every time there was a stoppage in play, Daniel Holdsworth was out there talking to him really calmly, and he was listening. And the coach said in the press conference that they had a word with him at halftime about some things to sort of correct and change. And in the second half, he was a lot better defensively. So that shows you a young guy who's willing to learn, listen, change on the fly. So that's super impressive. And that try was highlight reel, so we'll never forget that, and that's awesome. I think that his body is the perfect height for a footballer. His weight is probably a little bit under where we want it to be as far as strength running. But again, first game, I'm not going to have that in my mind forevermore as to how he's playing. But I think a few more kilograms on him over summer would help him a lot, just to get the power going a bit more. But I thought overall, a very positive debut. What do you think?
The first half, I was kind of having those Ronaldo debut flashbacks.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I feel for him, because having Sam Walker go at you for 80 minutes is really hard. And then, practicing next to Nakora and having that, steady head, and then having him taken out as well, I thought, we're not setting him up for success here. Like, this could be a disaster. But
just to interrupt you, also keep in mind it was a late call up. It was only a couple of days. Yeah.
So again, it was just that kind of, oh no, I hope it doesn't go down that route type of feeling that I had in the first half. But the second half, he came out. And the one thing I always like to see is just how other players react to a certain player. When he scored that try, they all went nuts. And they all, even when they came back over halfway, you could see Siffer was talking to him and like really calmly, just hey, this, and this, for things for him to keep an eye on. So again, the love that the players have for him was really evident. Even when he scored the try, he hit the Cronulla Blake, that sort of bad boy. But I love seeing that. And again, after the game, I saw some shots, and Michael Gabriel was out there, and a lot of these guys that a lot of people have been calling for to get a chance. When they do get these chances, you're seeing how much the other players are experiencing that joy for them, because they're going above and beyond to celebrate that. And even I thought the club did a really good job with the Cronulla Blake 200th game. There was a real concerned effort around that. Even in the press conference, Cam was wearing the shirt. He ripped off the sleeves. I don't know what that was about, but he looked a little bit tougher with the arms exposed and the tattoos out. But I just think, again, look, the things that you want to see, it hasn't been a season up to the standards that we've wanted. But you can sort of see now that they're doubling down, and they're kind of getting that identity of who they want to be and what success looks like, because you can see it in the little victories and those little moments I touched on a little bit before with Katoa, Toby, the debut. So yeah, it's getting there. But how long is Jesse out for?
Undisclosed. I think it's shorter term rather than longer term. Not sure if it'll be named this week, but not long term is what I'm told. It's minor.
So there's a chance Chris might play again this weekend, right?
There's a chance. I think it's 50-50 at the moment, but they're a super happy club internally, and I say that a lot, but it was never more obvious than last week, and they all respect each other, and I'm not saying they all are best friends and they all sort of love each other to the point of like it's just bliss, but they are all in their big word is they're connecting with each other. They all love each other. There's no, if someone drops the ball, there's no like, oh, this guy again. It's no, get up, let's do better. So there's no, at the moment, what I'm seeing internally, there's no badness at all. Like it's all just sort of love and respect, and it's a really positive place, and that is what you're seeing on the field, especially the last 2 weeks. With Cronulla Blake, it's the first time in my memory, and someone may be able to correct me, I'm not saying they can't, but in my memory, a player has had a portion of the ground locked off for him and his family, and there were a lot of family there. So right next to the Andrew Eddinghausen stand, to the right towards the entry in the general admission, right next to it, there was a cordoned off bit, and it was just sort of like a bit of like orange tape or whatever. And I was like, what's this about? And then eventually you sort of saw people piling in. It was becoming very obvious. It was the Cronulla Blake fan club, family and friends. And there would have been, I'm guessing, I don't know, between 50 and 100 people in there just going nuts. So club did it well. He played really great. And it was a real feel-good night out there, over 11,000 people. Early game, but pretty cold conditions, and beautiful night though, clear sky, wind was fine, and The crowd was pretty responsive. It wasn't one of those necessarily quiet nights at Shark Park, which was good. Fair few Roosters fans in the crowd as well, which is fun. But Sharkies getting the job done. 31-18. Let's talk about some more players. Kieran, who have I got here?
Can we talk about the greatest hooker in rugby league history?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. Our boy Blake is just going nuts. He's going nuts, and he finished with two. Well, it isn't. It isn't. Finished with 2 try assists. Ran for almost 100 meters. I might need to look that up and see what his most meters in a game is. But you know, I think it's his 120th, 121st straight game. Most games currently in the NRL consecutively. When I say not surprising, Kieran, is that just each week he's getting better. Now, I don't know what to expect next. I don't know if he's going to run more or the same or a bit less, but he's just killing it. That's what I mentioned before about the set restarts. He was just all over it, just every chance he had to sort of get the ref to get him back to 10. He got it. I dare say the majority of those, if not all, were because of Blake Brayley's engaging the line. The try set up for Nico was just beautiful. Just watching that from up above, just you could see it coming. And the great thing he did was he had Teague to his left, and that was the obvious pass. He didn't do it, and we kind of went, in slow motion, and he went right to Nico, but Nico had more speed and probably less people around him, and Nico got the job done, which was fun as well. So, look, he's found his feet. I saw him at the club last week. He was actually, hopefully I'm not breaking kayfabe here, he was giving a talk to the NRLW team. They'd asked him to come in and have a chat, just a sort of inspo chat. So he was there late one afternoon, probably Wednesday afternoon, just hanging out. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, and we just had a 5-minute chat maybe, and his dad was there as well. And he's a guy who's very much, like, he's always a very chilled person, but he's very much at ease with what's going on right now. He's just a happy dude, and he's confident, and you can see it. And I definitely expect him to keep it up. I don't know if he can keep running for that long, but give some of your thoughts while I look up his most meters in a game.
Well, it's funny that when you see articles already saying that he's going to be the New South Wales number 9 for next year already, and like Origin finished 2 weeks ago, so it's been a bit of a we've talked about it for years. I feel like that, like, he needs to run more, and there was that stat last year that came out, like, if he runs more than 2 times, the Sharks win in a game, and all this type of stuff, right? But what he's doing now is on a different level to what he's put out in the past. And I remember when he was coming through in the juniors, and you kept hearing about him, and there was even talk at the time when Cameron Smith was leaving that the Storm were in for Brayley, even though they had Harry Grant in their system. This is before Harry Grant went to the West Tigers and did everything he did. But that was the kind of class he was talked about as a junior. And then we've just kind of expected him at a certain level, I feel like. But right now, he would be one of the informed players in the whole competition. And what he does for the halves is unbelievable, because that's when you get Nico running. That's when you get Nico going straight. That's when you get Trindle on the ball. So I think he has become our absolute most important player. And I saw a post on Instagram. I can't remember the account, but someone was saying for years people have squabbled over if this should be Trindle's team or if this should be Nico's team. But the answer is it's Brayley's team, and I completely agree, because he's so important to us, mate. And, you know, he's a real leader down there, and I'd love to see him with the C next to his name. You know, I know Cam has a great job, and they really love and respect him, but I just feel like Brayley he's our guy. You know, he's a local junior, and to see what he's doing, and Michael Ennis did a really good job touching on how he ducks down at the very last second when he engages the line, and so he just keeps going under people, and he's like, it's so hard to stop. So keep it up, Brayley. He's going unbelievable.
So second most run meters in a game, 2 meters short of his game against the Dragons last year in Wollongong. So he's in, career best form as far as running goes, or almost 2 meters off. Now, again, not name dropping here, but I do work at Fox Sports, for those people who don't know, and I did have a chat with Ennis last Thursday night, I think it was. Good chat, and as usual, it came back around to the Sharks, and we talked about Brayley, and I said to him, you must be really proud because you had a lot to do with him coming through the ranks. He said, yeah, it's just what you said, he's finally there, and he also doubled down saying how important he was to the club. And, I watched him a lot in the lower grades, even in the juniors at some point, and this is what he was like. He was an attacking machine. He wasn't necessarily the defensive weapon. But I guess first grade, it's like, college football and NFL, it changes you. You can't be Toyota Cup guy forever. You got to knuckle down and be defensive. And I don't know why it's taken this long. We had people on the post-game show saying, isn't it great the coach is now letting him run? I'm like, that's not true. That the coach doesn't tell him not to run. That's a ridiculous statement. It's just, it's taken him this long. But the other thing I want to say, Kieran, is he's been doing it now for a while, and not just this year. Like last year, he had a great year running. It wasn't quite this, but he's been going uphill with the runs year on year. So it's not brand new.
Yeah. And he's been our player of the year the last 2 years in a row, right? So it's amazing to see. But again, I think it's a credit to him, because I was watching on Fox Sports the face-to-face with Luke Metcalf, and they played juniors together. They came through together, and Metcalf's played 39 games since, Brayley has debuted, and Brayley's played 150 plus games now, right? So again, it's just a credit for all the work that he puts in, and it's unlucky for Metcalf, but Blake has been on that trajectory for a really long time. And, a lot of people have always questioned, what's our strategy? Should we have 2 dummy halves and all that type of stuff? But, this is why a guy like Sam Healey goes off to other teams, because Brayley has an absolute mortgage on that number 9 jersey for as long as he wants it, right? So it's a really good spot for us to be in. I feel like he is the most locked in player that we have in our 17, and he should be there for a number of years. So look, Mooney, get that contract re-signed, and let's keep moving forward.
He's not going anywhere. It's plain as day. For lots of different reasons, he's not going anywhere. And I don't think it's necessarily going to break the bank, but I also think they're going to have to pay. So
it's going to be a big uplift.
It will. It's not going to. I don't think it'll be like earth-shattering. I think it'll be earned, deserved. But the club man that he is, and this is pure speculation and opinion, he's not going to bleed him dry. And that's just how I feel.
And look, he's been on good deals with us for a long time. Like, I think we spoke about this last time we talked. They put him on like a 4 or 5 year deal back in like a long time ago, right? So they're on it. But some of the reports I've seen is he's on the 600s. And again, if you look at some of the money that's out there, I would be shocked if we got him for something under 9. I would be flabbergasted. But hopefully we can get it done. That's a 33% increase.
I would be surprised, and I'm open to being surprised, but I just don't think he's going to maybe necessarily go that high, because he knows that it's to the detriment of the club. Yeah. And he's almost in that Travojevic kind of role where it's like the club's more important to him than $100,000 more. He may be wrong. He may come out with bling all over him in a new car and go, Shinazzi, you're an idiot. But I just think, I'm not saying he won't get more money. Of course he will. I don't think he's going to be $1 million player for the fact that we've got one already, or close to 2. And maybe it depends on the fullback situation. Look, that's very unknown still. So if they let Will go and Liam's there on 2 cents, then maybe Blake will take the extra money. But I think whatever happens, it's going to be a fair deal, and it's just great to see. It's really great to see. Couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke and a true Sharks player. And it's funny because like it wasn't that long ago, a lot of people were like, we don't need him, we can do better. And other people were like, what are you talking about? Oh, he doesn't run. He didn't run. He wouldn't run. I get it. But that still wasn't a reason to get rid of someone. So it's a fun time. He's got to keep it up. But I think we've sort of passed that point where it's like, oh, wait and see on Blake if he's going to run. No. He's running. Like, just we don't need to focus on it too much. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay. Hines and Trindle. Trindle especially very much improved this week, but I thought both halves kicked really well. I thought game management was really good. That was the difference this week, and dare I say against the Dolphins a little bit as well. But this week against the Roosters, game management, which is what you need to see, I thought they both played really good.
Yeah, and if you look at the Roosters, like Sam Walker is such a talented player, but he almost looked panic in a sense.
Yeah.
And Chad had a really un-Chad-like game. Like Chad's usually kind of that boring style player that, will do the game management stuff. And he was throwing some pretty crazy passes, coming 15, 20 meters out from their line, right? So
Yeah.
I think the pressure might have got to those guys, and they were trying to score off almost every single play, probably because they were looking at, Burns and Vela defending together, and they thought this is a great opportunity. But our halves did a really great job of staying calm, staying composed. And when you see Nico on those sort of breaks for 30, 40 meters, scoring a try, he looks really in a good headspace. And I think one of the commentators was touching on his level of aggression has seemed to have upped in the last 2 weeks. And, I'll be completely honest, I've been absolutely filthy on this club for the last sort of 2 months with the run of form that we've dished up, because my expectations were so high for what I thought we could do this year. So to see him kind of turn it around, and he's copped an absolute hammering from everybody. And there were some moments there where I think some of it was just and a lot of it was unjust. But to see him now at the level where he's at, and the performances he's putting in, there's no question marks about him at the moment. And same for Trindle as well. I know Trindle's come under a lot of pressure in the last few weeks as well, right? So seeing those guys switch on and feel good, I think is a really good sign for us. Because again, if you look at the run that we've got, and we'll touch on it later, the draw is really set up for them to build some confidence. And there's a lot of home games, a lot of day games as well, which suit the style of football that we want to play. So, I'm looking at now this going, all right, well, this is a perfect chance for us to set ourselves up for a good finish. And if we don't do that, then we don't deserve to be there anyway. So really good signs.
Yeah, and if we don't make the top 4, and we can say that now because there is a chance. Now it's slimmer than what we'd like, but it's still there if you want to get it. You can definitely still be angry about the State of Origin period. Like, it was just nowhere near what we required. It was like 1 out of 5 or 6 games or whatever. I can tell you the biggest criticism came from the coaching staff about the halves, and that was part of the infamous what was the word we were using? I don't know what it was, but when Fitzy yelled at everyone,
honesty session.
The honesty session. Thank you. The halves were part of that targeted honesty session, and I know 2 weeks on, especially after the Roosters game, he's a lot more content with how they're going and the change in their style and attitude in particular. So maybe it worked, maybe it's coincidence, I don't know, but they're definitely trending the right way. I'll tell you who got some good mentions after the game of the post-game show, Kieran, and deservedly so, and that was T. Goulton. T. Goulton's been a really good force out there since he returned from injury. His stats are never like amazing, although he does make a lot of tackles and doesn't miss many. But we're talking about leadership. I think it's a fight between him and Brayley as to who the next captain is. And the other thing I want to touch on while we're talking captains is, like, I'm not someone who wants to take the captaincy off Cam McInnes. I see too much in what he does personally to do that. And then you look at him in the press conference and you hear the stories about what he's done the last 2 weeks to be out in the field. That's a leader, and okay, when it comes to Golden Point and he's not getting him across the line, I can't explain that. But I've never seen someone who was more born to lead than Cam McInnes, and I'll stand on that little McInnes Island for a while because that's how I feel. However, he is on the other end of his career, and the years will come when he won't be around, or if he is, it's a handing over. And I think it's a battle between Teague and Blake. But Teague's a real physical presence out there.
He's really upped the physicality since his return from injury. And I don't think we maybe appreciated how much of a loss he was during that period, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was missing for a fair few of those games where we had that bad run of form, right? So watching him play, he's really developing, and you can even hear the commentators changing how they're talking about him and how much of an important player he's becoming, because Nikora gets all the love, right? Because again, those lines that he runs they're ridiculous. But Teague does them too, right? But Teague also has a level in defense that I don't think Nikora has. And that's not a slight on Nikora. That's just more of a rap on Teague, because Teague absolutely jams people. And again, you can see it when he pulls off some of these hits, and you can see the physicality that all the other players lift around him. So again, great signs. And I'm really excited that we've locked him up for a couple of years as well, because he's a player, I think, if he went on the open market, and he has been
Oh,
on the
yeah.
open market, gets a
Yeah.
lot of interest, because, again, he's a guy you could insert into, say the West Tigers, and he would
Yeah.
instantly bring leadership qualities and be worth so much money to them for not just what he does on the field, but for the standards that he sets and the presence that he brings.
Yeah, and I think he is the sort of player Fitzgibbon wants to build a team around, or build a bunch of Teague Wiltons for his team. Like, it's very much not only how he used to play, but how he wants to coach. And I think we're slowly getting there. I don't know why it's taken 4 years, because that's a long time, but I feel like we're building towards where the coach wants to be. There was a major hiccup in the past 2 months. Like, we're not going to, like, just in the form. Like, the form was terrible defensively, but hopefully that's gone. I also want to give a shout out to someone who I don't shout out much on this show, but last week saved the season. This week, in 32 minutes off the bench, 12 runs, 105 meters, 12 tackles. Toby Rudolph.
Wow. Yeah, mate, Toby, since he's come back from injury, has been, a real force off the bench. And, I've kind of spoken about, I would like to maybe see him start, just because, again, I feel like when we get in trouble, it's because we don't have a lot of good go-forward meters. And sometimes with Kaufusi and McInnes, even with Nikora and Wilton, they're not big meter eaters, right? But Toby's coming off the absolute back fence, and he's looking really good. He's spot on the bench. He's absolutely safe. Again, I do like the idea. Would like to see maybe him starting with Fanil Blake, just to see what that combination would look like, because, again, it's a lot of power and size. But, again, if you're then bringing Kaufusi off the bench, how much impact would you be getting from a Kaufusi, right? So Kaufusi's role is very different to what Toby plays, and I don't think Kaufusi would come off the bench and do that style, right?
I just don't think, unless it's absolutely necessary, you change, shall we say, a winning way, but change a way that's going so good for a player. And we've seen Toby just come on with that ball of energy, and they're sort of short stints. I'm guessing they're 2 15-minute stints, and then he's off. And, the big thing people were unhappy about was he was playing too many minutes. He was gassed, all that sort of stuff. Wasn't really tearing it up as a starter. So I think, for me, he's a benchy now, and a really important one. But you look at Oregon Kaufusi on the weekend, much maligned, sometimes for good reason, sometimes not. 43 minutes, he ran for 100 meters. He cracked the 3 figures, 23 tackles, 2 offloads, 4 tackle busts. I thought he was pretty good, especially the second stint.
Yeah, that was one of his better games. And, again, he's been a source of frustration for many fans recently. And I thought, he had a real good performance. I think the thing with Kaufusi is you never have the criticism is never that he doesn't try or doesn't have a crack, because he's super physical and he does all the tough stuff. But it's just sometimes when we just don't get that go forward, and we rely so heavily on our backs that Kaufusi is often, the finger that gets pointed. But, again, he's in that defensive role, right? So it's a little bit different. But if he can play like that every single week and get those offloads going, because he gets that arm free, he can be, a really good player for us. But, again, we need to see performances like we did on the weekend for him to keep that spot in the starting lineup, because Hazleton's going to come back eventually, or that can't come soon enough. But we really need some of these guys to really lift, and he did on the weekend.
I think, looking at the draw, and we'll get to the draw shortly, I think Tall Tom will be maybe Dragons or Titans. I don't know if they'll wait till the bye or not. I don't know if it'll be before that. I don't know if it'll be Cowboys next week, but I feel like...
Did you give him a run at the Jets?
No.
Because, Tolly's a huge body, right? So I don't know how his cardio has been.
No, he looks good. I've seen him a few times in the last few weeks. He looks good. Like, he doesn't look like he's been, eating too many burgers or anything. I think he's... I personally wouldn't.
Yeah.
For lots of reasons. The risk, for the wasting of him playing for us.
Yeah.
You could bring him back in real like slow form. He could be the 4th forward on the bench and just give him.
That's it. Yeah. So sometimes we have that player that comes off the bench only plays 12 minutes, right? So, again, you could definitely get away with that with Tom. It's just 12 weeks out for a front row of his size.
Has it been 12 weeks?
I think by the time he gets back, it'll be about 12 weeks.
Okay,
So
in my head it was much less. So maybe
yeah,
that
he's
changes
been
my
out for a long
thoughts.
time. Yeah, so we'll
Yeah,
have to wait and see on that one.
I think I'd just make him train real hard, and then I'd give him like a 15-minute stint or whatever, and then gradually get him back in. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now we'll wrap on the Roosters game, and we know we've got the Bunnies this week. Let's just go to the ladder, and the top two positions don't really bother us. I don't think we're going to get there. But in third and fourth are the Warriors. And so Melbourne and the Warriors, third and fourth on 30 points. Then it drops away to Brisbane on 26, Penrith on 25, and Manly and the Sharkies are on 24 in seventh and eighth. We're in eighth. We have a bye in hand, and none of those teams have a bye in hand. So if you add that bye,
we're on 26.
We're on 26. We're in sixth because of for and against, if you add the bye, right? Now, I'm not going to do that right now unless you've done it. We can talk about it. But a bunch of the teams above us play each other. So they're going to knock each other around a bit over the last couple of months of footy. But if I go to our draw, we have Souths in Gosford this week. We have the Cowboys at home, a day game on a Sunday. The following week, we have the local derby version 2, 3 o'clock Saturday at Stinky Cogra. We have the Titans at home a week later on a Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. We have a week off. We have the Knights at home on a Sunday arvo at 2 o'clock. And we finish with a blockbuster against the Doggies on a Saturday night. So if we're being real here, and it's not about looking ahead, it's not about being homers, but if we're a real team here, we beat Souths, we beat the Cowboys, I would hope we beat the Dragons, we beat the Titans, we beat the Knights, we get a bye, and then there's Canterbury. For me, honestly, and it's probably just because of what I saw on the weekend against the Bulldogs, the Dragons is the only real iffy game there. Now, I know the Cowboys can be a bit arsey. I get it. The Titans can even sort of attack really well. I get it. But if we're going to be the team we want to be, I honestly think we're winning all those games. And maybe it's by 1 point. Maybe it's by 50 points. I've got no idea. But I feel like the W's are there. Now, I'm not chalking them up, but you and our listeners know what I'm saying. Like if we're going to be the team we think we are. And so that will elevate us quite a bit over the next 6 weeks, right?
Yeah, and you see all these predictors and all that type of stuff, and I think Fox Sports has us now at like a 70% chance of making the top 8, whereas a couple of weeks ago it was like 49% or 51%. These things don't really matter, but the reality is we should win every single one of those games. The toughest one is going to be the Bulldogs, and just on the Bulldogs, they'll play the Thursday night before our game, so they'll have like a 10-day turnaround. They've got like a really decent break before that game. But again, you never know. Like they could be resting players. They could be really secure in their spot on the ladder.
Yeah.
So you just don't know what it's going to look like. But again,
it's one of two ways. It's like they're fighting for the minor premiership, or they're secure and they're not playing anyone. But that brings a different sort of pressure, which we're happy to have.
And given it's the last round of the finals and it's at Homebush and the crowds that they've been pulling, that could be a 40,000 game,
at least.
right?
Absolutely.
Again, especially if we do go on the run. And again, no one's been more critical and angry at this club than myself in the last few months.
True.
And
that's true.
The reality is they really should. There's no excuses if they don't go on a winning run here. And if they don't, then they deserve everything that they're going to cop, because these are really winnable games. And the fact that there's 3 or 4 of these games, so there's 4 games that are played during the day. When you have a hooker that is getting out of dummy half and running the way he is, and when you have Nico playing that really direct and aggressive running game as well, like that suits day football. So it's a run there that they really should pick up. And honestly, if we don't go at least, if there's 6 games left, if we don't go at least 5 from 6, I'm going to be quite upset. I think realistically in my head, knowing the Sharks will probably fumble a game here or there. So I've probably got us winning, I think, at least 4 plus the bye. So I think we get another 10 points in us. But realistically, I think we should be saying, well, the run starts here because we've won 2 in a row now. There's a chance here to put back-to-back wins. And there's no excuses to lose to South or the Cowboys, Dragons, Titans, or even the Knights at that point, because the Knights season should be over by then.
Let's do it again. South's at Gosford this week. South's are 15th, and they have no one left playing for them, right? No one. We'll be missing Britain as far as I know. We then play the Cowboys at home on a Sunday. They're 13th. Their coach is probably not going to be around long term. They have some good players. Out of a lot of the clubs we're playing, they could turn on a bit of spark. But defensively, they're horrible, right? So we should win that. Local derby at Cogra, it gives me a little bit of worry just because of Flano can obviously get them to lift for 50, 60 minutes of a game. But again, they're coming 11th. We're a lot better than them. I expect us to win that. We haven't lost to them since, for 12 games or whatever it's been. So, but I do sort of think that's a slight danger game. Titans at home, Desi's gone. They're 17th. They're woeful. So you got to win that. Week off, you win that. Knights come to town. You guys know how much I love bashing the Knights. They're 14th. They're on shaky ground. I doubt Ponga's going to be there. I haven't done the math.
He's out.
He's out. You know how I feel about the coach. I just think that's a win, right? And maybe it's a tight one. I don't know. And that leads you to Homebush and the Dogs, and we're not sure what that will mean. So I just think that, again, I'm not chalking these up. I'm not even chalking up the Souths game because we went to Gosford 2 months ago against a team that we should have beaten, and we didn't. So I understand how these things can happen. If the right team turns up, you don't win. If you don't turn up, you don't win. It's that simple. So for me, and I said it, I think on one of the shows recently, it's all about psychological side of things. It's not about the physical. Sorry, it's not about the skill factor. We're set. We know how to defend. We know how to attack. We got to turn up and play. Don't turn up and play. My last 2 minutes is out the window.
Yeah, and I think the last round game is going to be so important if we do go on a good run here and beat, in honesty, teams that are down the bottom of the ladder. Because, again, the same narrative is going to be played out again. The Sharks can't beat good teams, blah, blah, blah.
Well, we haven't this year. We haven't.
Well, it's not necessarily wrong. We beat Melbourne, and that was a good win. But other than that, we bottled games versus, the Raiders and things like that. So we shouldn't be in the position that we're in, right? The loss against the Roosters when I had 5 players out and all that type of stuff. Like, we deserve the criticism that we've copped this year. So it's not as if I'm looking at this draw and saying, oh, we should beat, Brisbane Panthers and, the top teams. And they're not necessarily the top teams, but I'm just giving examples of teams that are, playing decent football. These are teams that are struggling at the moment that we're going to come up against. And the issue that we've had is we've had weak mindsets and haven't mentally been there against some of these games, especially during the Origin period where we had no players out. We weren't affected at all. And we dished up some absolute slop. So if they do take the lessons from those games and they do prepare and they do come in and they do put their hands up in every single one of those games, I realistically think we should win all of them. And the Bulldogs game would be the toughest one, absolutely. But again, if this team is going to want to do anything in September, and I'm not 100% convinced that they can do anything in September, but if they want to convince people, they need to go into that Bulldogs game on a 5-game winning streak or 7 or whatever it is, because we've already got 2 in the bank, and give it to the Bulldogs. And that the finals will come a week early for us. The Bulldogs might be in a different position where we might actually force the Bulldogs into a confrontation. Like, the Bulldogs might be set, but we might be at such a level and performing if everything goes to plan, where the Bulldogs like, hang on, we got to perform it because they won't want to go on into the finals off the back of a bad performance, right? So it is extremely important few months coming up here. And again, the weather's starting to get a little bit nicer. August is not so cold, and things get a little bit better as we get into September. So again, I've been very down on this team, very down on this squad, very down on our performances. But this is what gets you. This is where the hope that kills you, right? So again, it's all in front of them. And the fact that the longest car trip that they'll have is a 90-minute drive to Gosford in the next 2 months, it sets them up for success. And if they don't have success, They only have to look at themselves. And then come November 1st, I think it would be an absolute bloodbath. But that's another discussion.
So on that subject, they've blown the origin period. We thought they'd just be lights out and be top of the table. They blew it. This is their chance to make at least that up a little bit by us saying you're not leaving home, so to speak. You're not leaving Sydney, really. Not leaving the state. You're pretty comfortable. Go out and do what you do. And they've started doing that, which is fine. That's great. 2 wins in a row. But yeah, I'd use that as a storyline for the players. And the other thing is, if there's a chance that we can finish fourth, and we think there is, and things might have to go our way, but still, we know from fourth spot you can do anything in this world. So it just might make that difference if you make the road trip to Canberra, or maybe it's the road trip to Homebush. I'm leaning towards Canberra. You beat Canberra, you get the week off. Like, I know I'm going way ahead, but if I'm trying to sell something to the players, aside from 1 week at a time, which I truly believe in, despite what I've said the last hour, I'd be selling that hope. It's like, fellas, you've still got it in the palm of your hand. You just got to do it. Keep getting better every week. Defend that line. Blake, keep running. Stay injury free is a big thing. And we're still in it. You know, people were writing us off. Our fans, our listeners are writing us off as recent as 3 weeks ago. Of course, that was nonsense, with all respect. But now, let's see what we got, because, you know, we believed this was a top 2 team at the start of the year. Now, that wasn't true. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it wasn't true, because they couldn't get the golden point thing done. They couldn't hang on in Canberra for one more second. Like, they couldn't do it. So maybe they're not a top 2 team, but maybe they're a top 4 team. Maybe they're a 5th place team. 5th place is, I think, less desirable, just because it is the sudden death business. So, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. But I just think I would aim for that. I would still aim for top 4, given the draw we have and the form of the team and the players. I'd be aiming for top 4.
Well, I think you need to, because if you finish, say, 5th or 6th, you're going to have either probably the Panthers or the Broncos week 1 in sudden death. And we are getting so far ahead of ourselves, because who knows where team's going to land. But, you know, if you're on the road to, say, Brisbane, that's not fun. Or even going on the road to, you know, I know Penrith aren't playing at home, but like going out to Parramatta and playing Penrith in week 1 of the finals.
You don't want to play them.
You got to finish as high as possible.
Just because of the storyline, you currently don't want to play the Panthers. Like in the finals, I mean, you don't. Absolutely. If we have to at some point, sure, but you don't want to do it week 1, that's for sure.
No. Well, and again, if let's say they go on a 5-game, 6-game, 7-game winning streak, get to the finals, play Penrith in round 1 and get bundled out, the same narrative gets played over again, and deservedly so. So what they need to do is to fight tooth and nail. And I think realistically, looking at the top 4, I think the Warriors are probably the only one as a chance to shake out, just because of all the injuries that they've had. But the Warriors keep finding a way to get things done. So it's going to be so hard to try and crack that top 4. And if you just you know, some of those games that they're absolutely bottled, you know, 2 points here, or, you know, potentially 4 points. They've left so many points on the table this season. They just can't afford to do it anymore.
There's 6 points at least. It's Tigers, Canberra, and Brisbane. You're winning by 20 points in Brisbane with 20 to go. Get the hell out of here. That's ridiculous. So, again, I'd use that as motivation. Hey, fellas, look at these 3 games as a minimum. Maybe there's more, but as a minimum, look at these 3 games you botched.
Equal third.
How about you go out? How about you go and win these next 3 games, these next 6 games, and make up for it? And if you fall short, then it's a lesson learned, right? And we can go, you know what? It did cost us, the Tigers and the Canberra and Brisbane. It did cost us, but look what they did. They went 6 games in a row. They did their best. They finished 5th. Let's see what happens. At least it's a team you can really be proud of that effort. You'd be like, well, okay, they lost games. Teams are going to lose games. I get it. If they go 5-6 games on a winning streak, I think we're sort of back to where we want to be. But yeah, we are getting ahead of ourselves. We've got the Rabbitohs this week. No disrespect to them. It's just unfortunate they're missing a bunch of players. And if we bottle this one, it won't be good. It won't be good.
If we bottle this one, I'll be beside myself. But again, this season has given us so many of those chances, and we haven't stepped up. So again, giving the players the chance to change the narrative and to get
Yes.
momentum, because
Yes.
momentum is the biggest thing in football. If you look at the Bulldogs, everything the Bulldogs are doing is based off momentum, and they're getting the swelling of crowds, and they're getting belief. And I think the one thing that we've talked about before with the Sharks is a lot of our problems seem to be mental. And
Yeah.
I think if we can build some momentum, get this downward hill run going, we should be coming to the finals absolutely flying. And that's the expectation. So if they don't get the job done against South, I'll be spewing. I'll be so dirty and upset.
I want that mid-form. I want that mid-season form from last year. That's what I want going into this end of the season when we beat those teams on the road, did it in spectacular fashion, in tough fashion. That's what I want. And, you know, Dolphins and Roosters game pretty good. Dolphins were missing a bunch of players. Roosters were not at full strength. So, you know, I'm not suggesting they were the greatest victories in the history of the game. I'm just saying that they're something to build off for sure. Good defensive efforts. So, yes. And, you know, South's Wayne Bennett, I don't know who's left standing for him. We won't know till tomorrow, but I don't think it's a done deal. I just think when you see the betting odds, they probably will be accurate, but it doesn't mean it's a done deal by any means. And as I said, we went to Gosford in party mode and it backfired. So I don't think it'll be the same mode this week. Kieran, you got anything else for me before we let you get on with your day?
Mate, I just want to say, what happened to the Chinese restaurant at Woolaware?
It's a great mystery, one of the great mysteries of the world. I'm sure more will get out. Don't want to speculate too much on it, but
I didn't even get to go there. It was always one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm going to go there soon, going to go there. Never went, so I never got to try it. So it looked a little bit sad on the TV, seeing it all blacked out and all the lights off. It looked very sad.
It's very sad. It's very sad for people who love Chinese food and the Cronulla Sharks. There's not a better combination really than Chinese food and the Cronulla Sharks. And I was lucky enough to go there probably, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 times since it opened. Like I went like, you know, I think so. I can think of like 5 or 6 at least, maybe 5 or 6. Had a good time there. I don't know. I don't have any goss for you. I can only think that financially it's not working out for him. I do think that the club will benefit from it because they will turn it into a corporate facility for game day. And I think that they will turn it into some sort of restaurant, eatery other times. Don't know how it's going to happen. That's just speculation. That's straight out of the Shinazzi weirdo brain. But when I look at it, it immediately speaks to me of corporate, and then it allows space for other places and even more corporates. You can have more corporates. So if the club's so intent on making money that way, and we heard Dino speak about a game at Allianz in the future, possibly because of those reasons, then I would be like, no, let's stay here and let's use the Chinese restaurant and the Pete Burns area, which will be done up, and et cetera, et cetera. There's ways to make money out of this, but yeah, not really sure what happened there. And the club does have a stake in it though. So that's the interesting part. The other interesting part for me, without getting too X-Files on you, is that it's been announced not only really suddenly, but also, what is it, a week or two after the Leagues Club was finalized and we had the big meeting about everything. And it's like, has something happened here? Is there a plan there? Like, because the timing is just kind of very odd. So I can't believe you didn't go.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was going to go around my birthday, but then because I was traveling and overseas, so I wasn't around for that. And then I just never got an opportunity. I remember one time I spoke to you and you said that you just been down there having lunch and you watched like a captain's run, and I just thought it was in the back of my mind. It's like, I've got to go and do that. Like, I've got to go there. And the amount of times I spoke with my friends about that deal that they had where you could do the $300 and all you can eat, or you can drink. I was like, that's such a great idea. I've got to do it. Never got around to it. So I'm spewing.
Yeah. Well, maybe there'll be another opportunity that won't be the same, obviously, establishment, but maybe it's a good space. I don't think it's going to get a waste. And if it does, well, that's another story. But I think there's a lot of twists and turns with the Leeds club. When I say that, I don't mean anything bad. I mean, I think there's a lot of news that'll come out about what's going to happen and things that you'll be able to do and see. And I think there's a lot of positivity there. We just got to get to that point, unfortunately, for us as punters waiting to go in. But yeah, interesting. There was a bit of press about it, I think, in the local paper, and the period I always forget about is the infamous Sharky time when the restaurant was called Sharky. And Sharky apparently is an old Chinese term for, I don't know, something else, but apparently it had a meaning. It wasn't just called Sharky because of Cronulla. At least that was what was told to me. But long history of Chinese restaurants within the precinct. So personally, I hope someone else comes in and just goes, no, I can do it. But I don't know. It's a bummer.
Yeah, well, the Leagues Club work will have to start pretty soon. I think they've selected a builder and all that type of stuff, right? So that's going to be such a game changer for us to have that there. And I think for that whole precinct, because I even saw some rumors saying that KFC shut down, but I was there. I walked past there the other day, and KFC is still going. So I think just getting that Leagues Club there and getting it going, because all the apartments are finished now, and getting that precinct going, I think is going to be a real key thing for us, because there's still so many empty shops and all that type of stuff. But the new fruit market that's opened up there is quite the hit in my household. My wife's a big fan of it.
The fruit market?
Yeah, so it's I think it's like a place that opened up from Kirrawee that's branched out down there, Woolooware. So it's, when you come up from the bottom level, straight off the escalators near Baker's Delight, where the butcher is.
I'm going to suggest it's more than fruit, though, right?
Yeah, it's everything, right? So I think they've got the big signage now on Shark Park.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. I've been in there. It's I did a number in there. Some really good. Yeah.
So it's absolutely I
do know a store or two will be moving around a bit in the coming months and year. So there's a bit of change happening. So there's obviously some sort of plan, but wait and see on that.
Also, just quickly, it's the 1 year anniversary of the Shark store.
It is. I'm glad you mentioned that. And we're going to, Gary and I are going to be doing some shooting down there this week. So
20% off.
If you see us down there, make sure you come say g'day, be part of the show. And there's a few celebrations happening with the club, so stay tuned to your socials there. But yes, Barnsey and Ash and everyone behind the store, it's been a really successful story. They're turning a trade, which is great. And as most people who live in the area, at least listening, know, it's a fantastic place just to hang out and burn some money. So very good move by the club, that's for sure. And I think, much like moving from the Cronulla store to Woolooware, when the Leeds Club opens, obviously Cronulla will still be open, but I just think we're in for some good times in the next couple of years. I'm not going to say next year necessarily, but next couple of years. We just got to be patient, and then we can have our fun up on the deck, and we can see what goes on there. So good times ahead, but no more than this Saturday up in your old neighbourhood in Gosford. Yeah,
I was considering going up there, but I'm still traumatized from last time I went up there. So I might stay at home and watch this. You
had a pretty traumatic time, I remember.
That was a nightmare. And it started off, the worst part of it was I got to the hotel at Terrigal and I had all my Sharkies gear on and I was dropping my stuff off, and then the Roosters players all got out of the lift as I was getting in, and I just felt like an absolute child being a man in his late 30s sitting there in all his Sharkies gear in the middle of the day. So, yeah, it was all downhill from there.
That's like when I get down to Paisley's, daily, and I'm wearing the wrong jersey or the wrong hoodie, and it's like you're in line next to a Sharks player. It's like, hey, man, great game.
Hey, dude, it happened to us when I was wearing a SharkCast shirt at Bunnings, and I ran into you and the family. So, it can happen to everybody.
That's right. What a great man. Just on that, you can get our merch at rugbyleaguemerch.com, I believe it is. And on that note, Kieran, we'll say goodbye. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for your time. We haven't been able to do this regularly, but hopefully in the weeks and months coming, we will get you your Monday fix. Have a good week, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
All right. Up Cronulla. You will be hearing more episodes from us throughout the week, so stay tuned. You know what to do. Subscribe, like, all that sort of stuff. Unprofessional end to a professional podcast. Up Cronulla.